Today, we're going to open a window that looks directly into the developing brain during its most critical formative years. We'll be exploring a truly groundbreaking initiative that's making this possible, the Unity Project.
So let's just start with a number, a huge number. An estimated 250 million children right now worldwide are not reaching their full developmental potential. And look, that isn't just a statistic, it's a global crisis, and it's one that's been hiding in plain sight.
And that really brings us to the central question, right? For decades, we've tracked physical growth. You know the charts, height, weight, all that. But what about brain growth, the very foundation of a child's potential? Well, that has been a massive blind spot, especially in the low and middle-income countries where this crisis is hitting the hardest.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at that global blind spot. Then, we'll see why the best tools were always just out of reach and introduce the new technology that changed everything. After that, we'll dive into the Unity Project itself, check out the evidence that it's actually working, and finally, look at how it's literally charting the future of brain health.
All right, let's start with that blind spot. For years and years, the main way we've tried to measure child health on a global scale has been through physical growth. But as we're learning now, that is nowhere near the whole story.
You know, this slide really reveals a critical disconnect. On one hand, you have physical growth metrics like stunting. They're pretty easy to track. But on the other, you have brain growth. And research is showing us that those physical metrics, they only account for a tiny fraction of the differences in cognitive performance. You just can't assume a physically healthy child has an optimally developing brain. They're two totally different and equally important things to measure.
And this brings us right to the core of the problem. We actually have a fantastic tool for looking inside the brain. It's called magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI. The problem is, it's been the right tool in almost all the wrong places.
The disparity you see here is just staggering. I mean, in the United States, there's roughly one MRI scanner for every 25,000 people. But in many low and middle-income countries, it's less than one for every 1.25 million. That's not a gap, it's a chasm. And it was created by the massive cost and infrastructure that these traditional MRI machines demand.
But what if you could redesign the MRI from the ground up to solve that exact problem? Well, that's exactly what happened. And it's a true technological leap in accessibility.
Okay, the difference you see here, this is the whole story. A traditional MRI costs millions, it needs its own dedicated building. This new low-field MRI, it costs a fraction of that. It's literally on wheels, and it plugs into a standard wall outlet. It uses about the same amount of power as a kitchen appliance. This one innovation just shatters almost every barrier that created that accessibility chasm. It's a game changer.
Now, having a new tool is one thing, but actually deploying it to solve a global problem, that's a whole other challenge. And that's where the Unity Project comes in. It's this massive global alliance to finally map the developing brain in places we've never been able to see it before.
Unity is a collaboration on a truly massive scale. It brings together the top minds from dozens of institutions all around the world. They've already put over 30 of these new portable MRI systems on the ground across sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, all with one incredibly ambitious goal: to create the very first objective, data-driven measures of brain development for these populations.
And get this isn't just about dropping off scanners and leaving. The project is built on 5 pillars designed for sustainable success. They're not just developing the physics and using AI to improve the images. No, they're intensely focused on building local capacity, training local scientists, clinicians, and technicians to lead this research for themselves long into the future.
Okay, so the vision is huge, the technology is revolutionary. But is it actually working? Let's take a look at the evidence.
So the most fundamental question you have to ask is about quality, right? Can these affordable, portable scanners really produce data that's scientifically valid, that's comparable to the multi-million-dollar gold standard?
Well, the answer is incredibly clear. This table shows the correlation between brain volumes measured by the new scanner and a traditional one. A perfect correlation is a 1.0. So getting numbers like 0.96, that is just astonishingly strong. This proves, without a doubt, that this new tool is scientifically rigorous and absolutely accurate.
Okay, so the data is accurate, great. But is it sensitive enough to be clinically useful? I mean, can it actually detect the subtle effects of common health issues on a child's brain?
The answer is a resounding yes. In one really powerful study, researchers used the portable MRI and found that maternal anemia during pregnancy was linked to smaller volumes in key brain structures of infants. This just shows you the real-world power of this tech. We can now literally see the direct impact of a mother's health on her child's developing brain.
All right, so the scanner is accurate and it's clinically sensitive, but what happens when you combine data from thousands of scans across all these different countries? What new knowledge is this unprecedented network actually generating?
This is the landmark achievement. I want you to think of those height and weight charts you see in every single pediatrician's office. Well, for the very first time, Unity is building the equivalent for the brain. They're using data from over 1,300 scans to create the first ever normative brain growth charts for these populations. It's incredible.
And the early insights are profound. The data confirms a strong link between poor nutrition and smaller brain size. But get this, even after you account for size, there are still significant structural differences between children in different countries. What this means is that we can now start to precisely measure the impact of interventions, whether they are nutritional or educational, directly on the brain itself.
So, this all leads to our final section, where we look at the future. What does it really mean for global child health now that we can finally see the developing brain with this kind of clarity and at this kind of scale? This quote just captures the whole mission perfectly. This isn't just about collecting data, it's about democratization. It's about making the best tools for understanding brain health available to everyone, everywhere.
Let's just pause on that for a second. In the space of just a few years, we have gone from a near total blind spot, relying on proxy measures like a child's height, to having the beginnings of a clear, detailed map of early brain development for populations that have been almost completely left out of neuroscience research until now.
And that leaves us with a final and pretty inspiring question. For decades, we've tried to solve the puzzle of early childhood development while working largely in the dark. Now that we have this new window into the brain, what will we finally see? And what will we discover to help every single child everywhere thrive?